There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show, only available here on The Experience. Now, we are going to talk about a few different things today. Obviously, the big conversation is going to be about the new Netflix movie, The Red Notice, and what obviously is setting up to be a series of movies. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk about a couple things. First off, having to do with, hey Jen, how you doing? First, I want to talk about news on Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Peyton Reed just posted that the principal photography for the movie has wrapped, and they're going to go into post-production. Now, you got to keep in mind with Marvel, post-production includes a certain amount of time set aside for reshoots and additional footage. That is baked into the process that they go through. It's covered and talked about a lot in the story of Marvel Studios, book that came out. And it's a really fascinating way they do things. Is they expect reshoots. They know they need it because they find the movie a lot of times in post. You write the basic movie and then you start filming it. And then once you're done, you start editing it. And that's where you find the right tone and all that for a movie. So at this point, it's only about halfway through the process. The filming is only the first half. So the editing bays is where the real movie is made. And then that's where they discover, okay, we need to clarify this scene a little more. This didn't quite work. Or, hey, we're doing this over on this film. Why don't we then do this over here? And Marvel has this interesting mandate, which is the best idea wins. So even if they come up and they go, it's a short time before they have to lock the project. If they go, what would really be better is if in this scene, this happens. And if they can get it done in time, then they'll do that. They'll make that change because their whole thing is about making the best movie possible. Now, it's not always going to be the right decision, but it's the decision they feel is right at the time. And, you can look at movies like Thor: The Dark World, where they edited it together and they changed the tone a lot. They lightened the tone in post-production and through reshoots, where, that's why Alan Taylor, the guy who directed the film, talks about wishing he had been able to put out a director's cut, because his movie was much darker, much more grim. But then he was coming from the world of Game of Thrones, where there weren't a lot of happy joy moments in Game of Thrones. And when you're hiring a director and you're looking at his work, and then you get over here, you go, wow, he did it way more like what he did here and not what we wanted. You can't really blame the director. because he's doing the story he wants to tell, and that's kind of how it works, and there has to be a compromise between the two, but not so much that it's like, well, this isn't the type of movie I do, so they fix it in post, and they don't do that anymore. I think they have a better process to get the tone right in the beginning. But I mean, Thor: The Dark World went through Patty Jenkins, and then Alan Taylor got hired, and then the cleanup in post. So it was a learning process. Now they've got it down to a fine art where they get these directors who know the tone they want, stuff like that. So it cuts out a lot of that, but the reshoots are still a normal part of it. So like the reshoots going on right now for Doctor Strange isn't, oh my God, it's a crisis. It's just part of this studio's process. A lot of studios don't do that. A lot of studios don't have the money or the sway to tell an actor, okay, look, we're going to shoot from here to here, X to Y, and then you're probably going to come back, be brought back for 4 to 6 weeks at this point. And it's built into their contracts. It's built into the idea that reshoots are going to happen. And again, a lot of studios, they don't do it that way because, well, that's wasting time, that's wasting effort. But for Marvel, it's a lot like when you do a comic and you get that proof copy and you're reading it as a writer, you get to a section of dialogue and you realize that either it doesn't quite work or the art doesn't really tell what it needs to tell. So you've got to put a line of dialogue in to patch it, or the dialogue looks redundant compared to the art. The art says exactly what you need to say there, and you don't need that dialogue. Well, in that process, the writer then has the ability to go to the letterer, okay, take this line out, change this one to this, add this line of dialogue, and you got 3 typos. And they can fix all that before it goes to the printer. Well, that's kind of what they do in post, is that they take a film and they start looking at it as, as the actual movie. They put the pieces all together, and what they start with is just taking every piece of footage they have and shove it all together. And then they start picking it through, like, okay, let's cut this scene, this angle, blah, 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 until they find the movie they want. And reshoots are a major part of it. So even though Peyton Reed announced that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania has finished filming, it's just principal photography. There will likely be reshoots, and I mean, it's part of their process now. So when that comes out, don't go, which a lot of people tends to do. Just know that Marvel is trying to make the best film they can make. Now, that's not me advertising for them. That's not me saying, oh, they do nothing but great films. There's some clunkers. There's some bad scenes. There's some changes that get made where you kind of sit back going, no, that would have been good to leave in. It's like Shang-Chi. I got to see the deleted scenes. And some of the deleted scenes, it's like, what? Why didn't we go with that? That would have made a lot of sense, or that would have, added to the movie type of thing. But, they found their movie in post, and that's what we got. So Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And keep in mind, I know that there's a lot of fans who are big MCU fans, but not of every movie in the franchise. So they've seen all the Avengers movies and all the Captain America movies and the Iron Man movies, but they haven't seen the Ant-Man movies because tonally it's kind of different. It's a little more comedic than the others, and they're basically heist films, or of that such, and that doesn't sit as well with, some fans, that doesn't interest them when they want to see a Captain America movie or an Iron Man movie. But the bottom line is this new movie is going to be huge in its role in the MCU. We're going to be getting Kang, not He Who Remains, but the actual Kang version in this movie. It's going to be Jonathan Majors. So there's a slight difference between the two characters. Kang is probably much more malevolent, much more manipulative. I mean, He Who Remains was pretty damn manipulative, I gotta say, but it's going to be more of Kang. And also we'll get a better idea when that movie comes out, when all the pieces are going to come together for the next big thing. Now, is it going to be another Avengers movie? Will Fantastic Four be the big thing? That's hard to say. Because, hang on a sec, I just want to pull up, there it is. You know, what are they building towards? Is Kang going to be the new Thanos level, or is he just an intermediate part? I mean, we've got so many different pieces going on here with Hawkeye and all these other shows like Falcon and Winter Soldier. You've got the street level stuff going on, and somebody's building like a Dark Avengers team. And then you've got the cosmic stuff going on with the Eternals and Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy. And then you got the mystic stuff going on with Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So you've got a lot of pieces spinning around. And where Kang fits in, is he the one manipulating everything? Is he the one behind all of this? Or, you know, in a very Thanos way, or is he just, well, we'll deal with him in the fourth phase, and then phase 5 we'll do the Dark Avengers, and then phase 6 we'll do some. I mean, where are they going? Are they following the map of the first 3 phases, or is this going in another direction? That's. I think we'll get that first real sense of it in this movie. Now, we might also get, I don't know how quickly they're going to turn around Loki season 2, but this Quantumania is due out July 28th of 2023. They could conceivably get another season of Loki out by then, but it really comes down to the schedule because they have so many things in the hopper at this point for Disney Plus. You've got Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel that are already filmed and coming up, but then you've got Secret Invasion, you've got Armor Wars, Ironheart, Echo. I mean, just on and on and on. And we don't know, Agatha Harkness, which is technically, I guess that would be kind of a sequel to WandaVision. In a way, it's the same writer, and it's focusing on Agatha Harkness from WandaVision. So I guess that's kind of a spin-off / sequel. I don't think we're going to get a Falcon and Winter Soldier 2 or season 2 because that's going to go to the movie. We'll get a Captain America 4. But there's a lot of stuff on the slate, so exactly when we'll get a Loki season 2 is still really up in the air. And how does that play with Quantumania? So I would expect that by July of 2023, we're going to have a lot more pieces and answers. But that's still a year and a half off. Somewhat doing the math. So, all right. Let's move on. Before we get into Red Notice, I'll probably do Red Notice after the break. See how much I want to talk about this next topic. I had a chance to sit down and watch the first 3 episodes of Cowboy Bebop on Netflix. And I'll admit that I'm coming in from a different place as some people. I don't know Cowboy Bebop. I haven't watched the anime. And it's not that I don't like anime. I actually have a lot of anime VHS tapes. I've watched a lot of anime. But Cowboy Bebop was just never on my radar. I tended to watch anime movies or, rather than the individual shows. So stuff like Full Metal Alchemist, Cowboy Bebop, things like that never really got on my radar. I mean, I knew of them, but I didn't really sit down and watch them. So I am walking into Cowboy Bebop with no real pre-judgment. I don't have, well, this is what the anime series was, so this is what the TV series should be. I'm walking in completely fresh. That said, by the end of the first episode, I was at least convinced enough that I should watch more. I've watched 3 so far. Somewhere between episodes 2 and 3, I kind of realized what they were doing, what this show is, at least for me. It's got the sci-fi elements. It's a little Altered Carbon, a little Blade Runner, the hunting of bounties. It's got a touch of the Western feel to it. But there is also this element that I originally said was noir. But I realized it's not noir. It wants to be noir. But it's substituting 70s detective series as noir. Because 70s detective series wanted to be noir and they weren't. They were something very unique. And this popped in my head because of the opening credits of Cowboy Bebop. I watched it and it kept making me think of something else. And it bugged me, like, I've seen something like this. It's not quite the same. The music's a little different. But the way the boxes cut in and out, and some of the scenes, like Jet Black just running across the screen, things like that, it felt like something I was very familiar with. And like I said, somewhere between episodes 2 and 3, it clicked in my brain. And then when the opening credits for episode 3 rolled, I knew what it was, is that the opening credits for Cowboy Bebop are very similar. And not exact. I mean, it's not a match. You won't look at them and go, oh, they just outright copied it. But there's definitely an homage or a match of style to the late 60s, early 70s series Mannix, which I've actually done a couple shows on. I got a friend of mine who absolutely loves the Mike Connors and the character of Joe Mannix, and got me into it. And we've done 2 episodes of Pop Go the Writer specifically on Mannix, covering the first 2 seasons of the show. There's 8 seasons total. But you watch the opening credits, and if you look at my Facebook page, I've got the Cowboy Bebop opening credits on there. And then in the comments, I have a link to the Mannix credits. And you could see, you could do a comparison and contrast between the 2. And once I made that connection, I started getting what this show really is. Like I said, it's basically a sci-fi take on a 70s detective series with, the big mustaches. It's got that 70s feel to it. And you start seeing it throughout the series. I mean, the first episode, there's 2 characters, Asmanov and is it Catherine? But that has a kind of an El Mariachi feel to it, but also it has that 70s feel to it. The cars look like the 70s. All the vehicles look like they're from the 70s. The guys have the big, huge mustaches and sideburns, and and I don't know when Cowboy Bebop started. I don't know if it was based off of a manga series, then got made into anime, or if it was straight into anime, if it was made in the 70s, or if it's more recent. I don't really have that background on Cowboy Bebop. But that's the feel. And I see it when I look up the animation, when I look up the artwork. And, I have seen images of Spike Spiegelman and Faye, Valentine, and stuff like that through the years, because you can't get away from that stuff when you work in this industry or when you're even around this industry. They're popular characters that pop up in cosplay, in sketches and art. They just show up. So you get a feel for them. So you see the guy in the blue suit with the earphones on and the puffed out black hair, or you see Jet Black, or you see, like I said, Faye in that little yellow outfit, and you become familiar with it enough that it clicks. But I didn't know enough of the story, so I can't speak to it based off of comparing it to the animated series. Those that I've seen who do compare the two, they don't seem to compare it favorably. There's a lot of things that the series adds or changes that fans don't seem to be happy about. But most of the people that I've seen that this is their introduction to Cowboy Bebop actually like the series, which is kind of interesting, because what's really happening is people are allowing their expectations to supersede the actual series, which we've seen more and more. Like the season finale of WandaVision went through that people had their expectations, and instead of critiquing or enjoying the finale for what it was and what the creators wanted it to be, they got upset because it wasn't what they wanted it to be. And I have a feeling that's happening again here, because the show itself is pretty clever. I like the fact that it's kind of self-contained. You get the overall story arc of the Syndicate and Spike and his days with them without, but you get that as the ongoing narrative. But at the same time, you have the individual stories, the individual bounties that they're going after. So you can sit down and watch an episode and take away from it and not feel like, oh God, I have to watch the next one now, because they don't have that hook. They don't really have that, cliffhanger ending that a lot of TV shows do, because they want you to just stream through all 10 episodes or whatever it is on the series. They don't have that. This is more serial storytelling. It's, we're going to do this one, then we're going to do this one, and then, and it really works so far. I like it. I'm enjoying it. Like I said, I'm only 3 episodes in, so, and of 10, I'm going to get through all of it, most likely by early next week. Over this weekend, the holiday weekend, I'll be watching it, and we'll dedicate an entire episode of the show to breaking it down, doing a deep dive into it, and I'll connect some dots. We'll have a better idea, because I'll do my research, and that'll be one of the shows next week. Along with, I've got an interview coming up with Scott Wilkie about a Kickstarter he's doing, and we'll be doing more dives. And Thursday is pretty much just going to be Hawkeye Day for the next 6 weeks, starting next week. We're going to deal with Hawkeye tomorrow because it drops tonight, and there's no show on Thursday because of Thanksgiving, because I have to cook a turkey and like 3 different vegetables and stuffing, dressing. When you don't put it in the bird, it's called dressing. I found that out. So I'll be cooking on Thursday. I won't be hosting the show. But that said, this has definitely got my attention. I like the stylistic nature of it. I like the cast so far. John Cho's always been a favorite. I think he's a good casting for this. He carries the show well. He's got that detachedness that seems to come with the character, yet when he turns on his emotion, it's there. Mustafa Shakir is really great as Jet Black. I think he's kind of the heart of the show in a lot of ways. I loved watching him be very, what's a good term for it? A little uncomfortable when the character Woodcock pops up. We haven't really got a lot so far with Faye Valentine yet, Daniela Pineda, but so far what we've seen is good. Elaine Satine is Julia. Just down the line, Alex Hassel is Vicious. These are all, the castings have been good so far, but I know that fans of the series are, like I said, a bit upset. Some of the changes have been pretty drastic. I mean, Spike is a former Syndicate member in both versions, but he gets a name in the Netflix series, which he doesn't have in. He's just Spike, where he has a different adjective name in the series. They call him Fearless, and they love calling him Fearless. It is said a lot through the episode. It's yelled, it's whispered, it's just the name Fearless is used excessively. Probably more than anybody says Spike, which is close because Jet Black says Spike a lot because Spike never does what Jet Black wants. Again, 70s detective trope. Overall, I like I said, I've really enjoyed it so far. I'm really curious where it's going to go next. They just introduced Ein, the corgi, which I know is supposed to be something special. We'll have to see how that plays out. But so I get where the people who are fans of the anime aren't happy with the series because it doesn't follow it exactly. But in that same vein, I go back to something Todd McFarlane said at a convention many years ago, right before the Spawn movie came out, and there was the HBO animated Spawn series and then the comic. Somebody asked him in a Q&A why the anime series was different from the comic and why the movie seemed like it was going to be even more different. And his response is, why would you want it to be the same? You've already read that story. The animated series is someone else's take on that character, and then the movie is somebody else's take on that character, and they all exist separately. So it's not like the movie made the animated series not exist anymore. You can still go back and rewatch it, and it doesn't negate the comics. Well, here it's the same thing. Live action. You still have the animated series. It's still out there. It doesn't change, and you can follow it and love it, but when you come over to the television, the live action, it's going to be slightly different. It's going to be, but shouldn't it be different? Or would you just be watching the same thing again? So I don't mind when they do that. It's like I also don't mind when Marvel, the MCU, makes changes. I know right now that's probably burning Kyle's ears because I know he likes very strict adaptations. There wasn't enough Civil War in Civil War for him. Where me, tell a good story, borrow from what you want, keep the heart of it there, and I'm good. So, all right, guys, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll come back, and we'll have our spoiler discussion about the Red Notice. Be right back.
They say it, and it's true, that everything is getting faster. You're not getting any younger, and time is the single resource that you can never get back or get any more of. So why are you wasting time wandering around a comic book shop looking for a new storyline to get hooked on?
Hi everybody, and welcome to Minute to Skin It. Yeah!
Spend 1 hour with Miss Jen and Bean, and they'll give you the leg up on all the latest books hitting shelves this week. Your pull list will be brimming with the hottest new books before your friends even hear about them.
This is in Provenance of Secrets.
This is The Heathens. I read Wolverine number 17.
It's Minute to Skim It, every Tuesday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. Today we're going to talk about Red Notice, the Netflix movie that opened up as their number one movie, the biggest opening they've had. Yeah, we'll get to that in just a minute. Keep in mind the rest of the show. Stick around. We got some great stuff coming up after this. Miss Jen will be going through Minute to Skim It tonight, going through all the some of the comics coming out this week, giving her impressions and whatnot. And then Kyle and I will be talking about in stores this week, the books coming up, and some of the books that we will be talking about: the second issue of Harbinger, the new Brian Michael Bendis book over at Dark Horse, Joy something or other. But it's the new Jinx World book. I want to say Joy Division, and I don't think that's right. But there's a bunch of great books coming out this week.
Joy Division was the band.
Yes.
The book is Joy Operation.
Joy Operation. Thank you. But see, Joy Division, Joy Operation, not that far off.
One is from the 80s and one is from this week.
The book feels like it's from the 80s, in my defense.
Well, I didn't want to talk about Brian Michael Bendis' ability to write modern characters until our show, but
so lots of great stuff on in stores this week tonight. So stick around for all of it. It's going to be a great day here on The Experience. All right, let's get to Red Notice. Now, they have been hyping the living hell out of this series. And if you had a movie with Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot, you'd be hyping the hell out of it too. You would do all these. Kyle and I were just talking before the show started. He said Ryan Reynolds showed up on Antique Roadshow with one of the eggs from the movie. Dwayne Johnson showed up on one of the wrestling shows with one of the eggs and had Vince McMahon steal it from him. So they're promoting the hell out of this movie. And it is the top thing at Netflix, and it's a good thing they promoted the hell out of this movie. It's not that good, but I should, before I go any further, Kyle, can you roll the spoiler thing for me, please? Okay. Now, this movie's got an interesting pedigree or background on it because it was originally a bidding war to get this thing. Okay, when it came up, Rawson Marshall Thurber and Dwayne Johnson put this thing together. And they've done a couple movies together before that, but here they are. They're a Central Intelligence Agency, and I don't remember the name of the other movie, but they've done a couple movies together before this. So they came up with this idea back in February of 2018, and Universal, Warner Brothers, Sony Paramount, they were all trying to outbid each other for this. And it ended up going to Universal. Now, and it stayed with them for quite some time. And then while principal photography began and all this, they were going to have it come out in 2020. So it was going to come out a year ago. But pandemic, of course, delayed it. But also Netflix ended up stepping in and taking over the distribution of it, which I'm still not quite sure how that changed. But where it was originally set by Universal to be June 12th, 2020, when it got switched over to Netflix, Netflix came up, no. In 2019, they took over and then specified it'll be sometime in 2021. Well, that turned out to be on November 5th, they actually put it in theaters, limited theatrical release. And then on Netflix on November 12th. Now, the movie did just about $1.5 million in like 750 theaters that opening weekend. But, and I think it ended up getting about 2 million as of now, which for a movie that, Dwayne Johnson made 20 million on it. Gal Gadot made 20 million on it. They made 2 million in the box office. That means Netflix is really hoping that you're going to sign up to watch this movie. Now, the premise is pretty straightforward. It's not a groundbreaking premise. We've seen this thing before, where you've got one of the world's greatest thieves is captured by the police or FBI in this case, and used to help capture another better thief. Is how it's worked out. So you've got Gal Gadot is great. Ryan Reynolds is just a little bit less than Dwayne Johnson plays the FBI agent. And it's all about them kind of bonding. And he captures Ryan Reynolds in the beginning after a completely odd parkour scene. I don't know why they went parkour, but they did. There's this very, very long parkour scene where, excuse me, my apologies, where Ryan Reynolds is running from the police, and I think it's the French police or Italian police, and from Dwayne Johnson, who's on loan from the FBI to help capture this thing. And by the way, there's so much product placement in this movie. There's Coca-Cola used to show the fact that the egg had already been swapped with a fake. There's Aviation Gin, owned by Ryan Reynolds. There's a part where Dwayne Johnson is drinking tequila from the company he owns. There's a lot of product placement in this movie. There's even a part where he gets into this very nice sports car and then immediately gets into an accident. So, again, product placement. So a lot of scenes in this and a lot of things in it are there to help pay for this movie. Because, again, they're not going to make a lot of money in the box office. And you got 40 million in two of your stars. And I don't know what Ryan Reynolds made, but I doubt he's cheap. So you got these three big name stars, and the rest of the cast is just filled in with actors. I mean, there really isn't any big name, recognizable name. And the whole thing is just this con movie, but it gets to the point where the twists become a little obvious, and it starts looping back around on itself. There is one thing to have a twist ending. It's another thing to have a twist followed by a twist and another twist and then a twist. And that's kind of what they're doing here. It's almost like they went, we got this whole box of twists left over from all the stuff we wrote this year. What do you want to do with it? Just put them all in the same movie? Well, okay, it seems excessive, but let's do it. And it's pretty much how it comes across. It's just, it's like the spin cycle of plots. Just not very good. Now that said, Ryan Reynolds is Ryan Reynolds. He's entertaining when he's on screen, but his character kind of comes off in two very different ways. He comes across as the jokey, never do things right guy, which he plays in a lot of movies. Yet there are times that he's incredibly efficient and strategic. He plots out, he's escaped multiple times from prison. And it's almost like he enjoys getting caught so he can escape from prison. And both of those characters work, but when you make it the same character, it doesn't quite blend very well. Dwayne Johnson's character is pretty much the same character he plays in every movie. There's an old line, Jeff Altman line. He talks about an actor having the range of a Daisy air rifle. And I realize that a lot of you aren't going to know what a Daisy air rifle is. It's an old BB gun that could shoot about 3 feet off the end of the barrel. I like Dwayne Johnson because when they cast him in the role, and I look forward to Black Adam, because Black Adam should be a very different role for him, and I look forward to seeing what he can do with that. But his character here in Red Notice is really not that different than his character of, is he Hobbs or is he Shaw in The Fast and the Furious? I think he's Hobbs. His character of Hobbs, or how he comes across in Jumanji, or just about any other movie he's done. It's that specific note character. And then Gal Gadot is probably the most interesting character in it, and she's not that interesting. So you've got these three characters that are just pretty much playing on their personalities. So Ryan Reynolds is in this movie being Ryan Reynolds with this side thing that he's really good at, breaking out of prisons and coming up with plans. And Dwayne Johnson is just playing Dwayne Johnson. And then Gal Gadot really, she's not playing Wonder Woman, but there's that I can do anything feel to the character. So it feels like they just kind of said, well, just play yourself to all of them. And again, it doesn't quite mesh together. It just feels like an odd jigsaw puzzle that doesn't actually make a shape or make a picture. The pieces, they click together, but not in any way that makes anything you'd want to see. The action in it is, let me put it this way. If you're a fan of the Fast and Furious movies, this is right up your alley. If the Dwayne, or, if Hobbs and Shaw or your normal Dwayne Johnson movies are your thing, if you're just in for that, then the odds are this movie's going to be fine for you. Because there's a certain suspension of disbelief that you go into a movie accepting, and then there's an excessive amount that you have to do for some films, like the Fast and the Furious movies, Fast 9. I saw Hobbs and Shaw, and there was a lot of things in that movie that if you took 2 seconds to think about, that is completely impossible. The laws of physics would not allow them to do the things that they're doing. Yet, when you get into the movie and you detach yourself from that and just go with the flow of the movie, it works. And that's kind of what they're trying to do here. There are certain things that happen that just don't work in reality, but you go, okay, it's a Dwayne Johnson movie. You kind of expect it. And if you can't divorce yourself from that, if you can't suspend that much disbelief, then you're going to have a hard time with this film. There's also things that happen in the movie that we see in the real time of the movie that, or in flashbacks, that don't make sense with the twist. Try not to get too spoiler, even though we got the spoiler warning up. Okay, I'm going to spoil a bit here. The big twist is Dwayne Johnson's not an FBI agent. He's working with Gal Gadot's character, and it's the whole thing's a setup, which it's an interesting twist. I saw it coming. There was a couple things that got said early on, like him telling her that she works with a partner, yet we never see the partner. So obviously that was a line of dialogue that had to mean something. And when we get to the end and you realize, well, there's only two people she could be partnered with, and it wouldn't make sense for it to be Ryan Reynolds. So you kind of knew who she was partnered with. And also there was some moments that she was supposed to be torturing him, yet the way it was shot, it's like, yeah, we're not really seeing anything. It's obvious that there's, they did it in such a way so that when you look back, oh yeah, she wasn't torturing him. That was obvious. There was also, just like I said, the fact that Ryan Reynolds was listening when they talked about her being partners and stuff. It was all set up. And if you pay attention to a movie and you think about stuff like that, then it doesn't work. But again, I think a lot of people don't watch a movie as closely as I do because I see the writing tricks. I see the setup tricks because I've been doing this for a long time. So there's a chance that I'm going to be taken out of a movie by something that the normal person isn't going to. The person who doesn't write stories for a living. So it's hard for me to critique on that. But there was definitely set up, and I leaned over to Lisa while we were watching it, and I said, I think I know what the twist is going to be. And she's like, tell me. I went, no, if I tell you, you're going to yell at me when it turns out to be true and accuse me of spoiling the film. She goes, no, I won't. And so I told her, and sure enough, when it turned out to be true, she yelled at me for spoiling the film. But it's the twist, just, it's really obvious. But there are moments in the film that Gal Gadot does things to get Dwayne's character in trouble, which didn't need to happen for the actual story. She, at one point, intercepts a call from the police officer who's checking on Dwayne Johnson's credentials to the FBI. She intercepts it and says, no, I've never heard of him. Well, if he's not a real FBI agent, why would she have to do that in the first place? Because if he called the FBI and said it, yeah. JD says, too many of my coworkers worked on this movie, so I can't trade my thoughts on this movie. Yeah, see, that's the thing, is that I wanted this movie to be good. There's a lot of really good, I mean, I love Ryan Reynolds movies. I like seeing Dwayne Johnson in movies. I'm a huge fan of Gal Gadot. 3 great elements, but the rest of the movie, it's like they spent all their money on the 3 actors and then just went, okay, we're just going to do absurdity the rest of the movie. The prison break scene is just completely absurd. Just one after another. There's, the fight between the 3 of them. It really did look choreographed. It didn't look like a natural fight scene. And yeah, I really wanted this to be a good movie. Now, I didn't hate it. I did my best to shut my mind off and watch the movie. And at the end of the movie, when we switched over to watch something else, it was like, okay, that was fine. But then that was Saturday, and this is Tuesday, and it still works up here, and it's still clicking through, and I start picking it apart because it's very easy to pick this movie apart. And then, of course, there is the way overly set up for a sequel, to the point where Netflix just bought this movie because they knew it was going to be a series of movies. They bought the franchise. They didn't care what the story was. They cared that they had the 3 actors in this crime thing. This is their Fast 9 in a lot of ways. It's a heist movie with 3 huge stars, and they're going to get at least 2 of these out of it. It would not surprise me if they try to get 3. And perhaps they've got to get 3 to make the money back. I don't know. I just know that, the ending was so set up for a sequel. I mean, it literally started the sequel. It's not even like it was hinted at. They literally started the sequel. Read or Notice, Red Noticing, Red Hour 2. What do you think the sequel name will be? Red Notice 2 Electric Boogaloo, which is what every sequel should be named, is Electric Boogaloo. That is my honest belief. I say that anytime somebody asks me that question. Whatever the second movie in a line is, should be Electric Boogaloo. The third should always be 3D. So, true. Ryan, I could see Ryan Reynolds actually coming up with that. But since it has to do with the Louvre, I think it would be funny as if they decided to follow up on Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code and have them trying to break in and steal the body of Mary Magdalene that's supposed to be hidden in the Louvre underneath the pyramid, the 2 pyramids. So that would be funny to have them do that. All right. So, yeah, my thoughts on the movie is, if you're a Fast 9 fan or a Fast and the Furious fan, and you can suspend enough disbelief to forget that logic exists and that Einstein was real, then go ahead and watch the movie. It's an entertaining hour and a half to 2 hours, whatever it was. But if you're the type of person that can't do that, and you actually have to stop and go, oh, that couldn't possibly be, or this couldn't possibly be, then this is not the movie for you. And I'm sorry, but yeah. Go watch Cowboy Bebop. Go watch Nailed It. I watched Nailed It this weekend, which is the most twisted cooking show I've ever seen in my life. Just go watch something else. The World According to Jeff Goldblum. There's a whole new series or season of that. Go watch that. That's fun. Or go back and rewatch The Witcher. That's going to be coming out too. All right. That is Red Notice. Tomorrow we are going to be talking about Hawkeye. And the reason we're talking about Hawkeye tomorrow, which will normally be my Thursday thing, because I like to give you guys time to watch it. Thursday's Thanksgiving here in the U.S. If you're not in the U.S., Thursday is Thanksgiving here in the U.S., and I will be cooking Thanksgiving dinner for my family. So I won't be able to do the show unless for some reason you guys want me to do a live feed of me cooking, which I don't recommend, but who knows? Anyway, so tomorrow we will talk about Hawkeye. It will be a spoiler conversation, and it will be at the normal time, 2 o'clock. So if you get in a chance to watch it, if you get a chance to watch Hawkeye before the show, come join me in the conversation. If you don't, then catch it on the rerun on the YouTube channel. Okay, because we're going to go in depth on the first. It's 2 episodes. There's only 6, I believe, and this will be wrapped up by the time, right before Christmas, and then we'll get Book of Boba Fett after. So Thursday is going to lock into the deep dives on the Disney Plus stuff. So we're going to have Hawkeye, then we're going to have Book of Boba Fett, and then hopefully something will start up immediately after Book of Boba Fett. But join me tomorrow for that. I will be staying up late to watch it tonight, and I am eager. I love the look of this series. I love the Christmas feel to it. I think in a lot of ways it'll help get me in the spirit for the holidays. So just everything about this, I am all in, all on board. My only hope is that this doesn't turn out to be the Clint Barton swan song, and we are told that we must like Kate Bishop. Introduce a character, let me like her naturally, or like that character naturally. Don't come, and that's how it feels with some of these newer characters that we're being told we have to like them. I want to like them on their own. So hopefully that is what will happen with this series. I am very much hoping that I come out of this thinking Kate Bishop is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But since that's what everybody's telling me going into it, makes me skeptical. Kind of funny that way. All right, folks, remember, stick around. We've got Minute to Skim It coming up tonight with Miss Jen going through the week's new books. And then Kyle and I will be back at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. And we'll talk about some of the books, including Harbinger 2, Joy Operation, Barbarella, The Invincible Red Sonja. Some great books coming out tonight at 5 p.m. Stick around for that. Thank you, Chuck. Have a good holiday to you and to all of you. Have a great and safe holiday. I hope you have wonderful feasts and lots of time with your family. Take care. See you tomorrow. Good night.